April 23rd, 2018, Board of Selectmen's meeting order, time being 6:06 p.m. Is anybody recording?
Free cam.
Is anybody recording the meeting?
Free cam.
Free cam? Can't hear.
I'm not getting anybody in the
Is that?
It's, I don't know who they are.
No, I know. I think they're saying they can't hear.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying.
Is that better?
Yes.
I apologize. Calling April 23rd, 2016, Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. It being now 6:06 p.m. Is anybody recording the meeting?
Free cam.
Free cam. And we have a court-appointed stenographer recording also. Tonight's agenda is only going to deal with Excel, so I'll read tonight's agenda. The consent agenda, Board of Selectmen, action relative thereto, public comment, consideration, and application.
Because of that time I'm hearing you, and you need to slow down a little too. So can we, there's a lot of noise going on.
Okay.
I have to get it all. Okay.
Where would you like me to start from?
Probably we started reading. Okay, sorry.
On the consent agenda, Board of Selectmen, public comment, consideration and action on application for renewal of a secondhand merchandise license of Excel Recycling Inc., followed by an executive session with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21(3), to discuss strategies with respect to litigation. It's been The stenographer is asking for another minute.
I'm sorry.
No, I just want to let the crowd know why.
I just realized
Plug is almost ready.
I know, but
No, I think I'll be all right if you speak loud enough.
Okay.
I just
she's concerned.
realized I wasn't
I'm just going to do this
recording.
little dissertation, and then we'll put the microphone back in the middle.
All right, and then I'm going to ask you to start the whole thing over, and I apologize, I won't ask again. Okay.
I apologize for the delay.
All right. Sorry, once again, you can go down.
Okay. One more time. On tonight's agenda, the Board of Selectmen will be here for public comment, consideration, and action on application for renewal of a secondhand merchandise license of Excel Recycling Inc. And then we'll be entering into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the litigation position of the public body and the chair so declares. Just as an opening ground rule, some of you may have gotten it, some of you may not. I'd like to thank everybody for coming here tonight. There's only one thing on tonight's agenda, and that's the application for renewal of Excel Recycling secondhand junk dealer's license. As many of you know, Massachusetts state statute states that the license runs annually from May 1st through April 30th and is subject to renewal by the Board of Selectmen acting as a licensing authority. This board takes that responsibility very seriously. I'd like to take a couple of minutes to lay down some ground rules for tonight. First, this is not a public hearing. This is a duly posted public meeting of the Board of Selectmen, which means the board has the right to solicit and stop comment at any point. It also means the board has the right to end the proceedings when it feels it has heard enough comment. Second, the board is here tonight to hear comments by all parties concerned. We will listen to and probably ask questions of representatives from Excel Recycling, the Freetown Zoning Enforcement Officer / Building Inspector, the Freetown Health Inspector, the residents of the affected neighborhoods, and anyone else wishing to be heard. We will do that in that order. This comment period will begin at 6 p.m. and we intend to conclude at 7:30 p.m. If you do not have the chance to speak or wish to submit additional written comments or other documentation, you may submit that through the town administrator, and it shall be made part of the record of the proceedings for consideration by the board prior to any vote. Finally, please keep your comments to the point at hand and be respectful for all parties involved. Due to time constraints, we ask that you come to the microphone and state your name, address, and deliver your comments to the board. Please do not please do not be redundant or argumentative, as this doesn't solve anything and only takes time from other people who want to speak. At 7:30 p.m., the board intends to end the public comment portion of tonight's meeting and adjourn to executive session to discuss with legal counsel any recent developments and strategy with respect to ongoing litigation with Excel, which is pending in New Bedford Superior Court. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, the board will next publicly meet on 4/30/2018 at the Freetown Elementary School at 6 p.m. to deliberate on information presented and decide whether or not to grant with restriction, or decline the petitioner's request for renewing the license. Thank you respectfully, Robert Jones. With that being said, is there a representative from Excel that would like to speak? Oh, yes.
Because I am in a butter, I have been advised that it could be a conflict of
Charlie.
interest. Mr. Chairman, because I am in a butter of Excel, I have been advised by the Attorney General's office that to partake in any activity involving Excel could be a conflict of interest. So at this time, I will step down from the table and I will go into the audience for a time and listen to the comments. Thank you.
Will the record please reflect that Mr. Sullivan is recusing himself from the rest of the proceedings? Sorry, sir. Would you please make the presentation?
Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, Chairman Jost and Select Board member. This has obviously been a long journey for this Select Board. It's been a long journey for Excel, and is this working loud enough so you can hear?
Yeah, can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is John Markey. I am an attorney who represents Excel Recycling, and I've had the privilege of knowing both of you and your counsel on a number of occasions appearing before you, and I've heard from some of the neighbors before. I stand here, I think, a year later than where we were last year, with significant investments having been made by Excel to address the concerns that this board had and to address the concerns that the neighbors have had. A year ago, when we presented, we were of the view that the board had not suggested they might be adding conditions. So we did not present on the issue of what conditions might be appropriate, we thought, or would be reasonable or unreasonable. We had been under the impression that we would make a presentation simply asking for renewal. Since the board did impose conditions, and those conditions exist at this time, we thought it prudent today to present to this board what we believe would be reasonable conditions going forward in light of the improvements that we have made to date and the likelihood that there will be some supplemental testing done with the Mass DEP that will be available to this board at some point, likely within the next 2-month period. So first point that I would just like to make a clarification. I did provide a suggestion of what we felt would be fair and reasonable conditions. I wanted to make sure that the board had it because I do have extra copies. The board had not received that.
Can we have a copy, please?
Absolutely.
And this will be submitted for the record.
Yes.
What you're submitting is temporary conditions, is what you're submitting?
Correct. So as the introductory paragraph states, the modern acoustic enclosure that was engineered in Germany because the European Union has more restrictive sound requirements than anywhere in the United States is in the process of being constructed, and it is about 90% done for the main shredder, and there's a small part of the shredder system called the trommel, and it's about 75% complete around the trommel. Upon completion of that, under our agreement with the Mass Department of Environmental Protection, they will be coming out and doing supplemental testing to confirm that that investment, which was nearly $1 million of my clients wanting to try to address the concerns of this neighborhood and this town, that it works the way that it was intended to work, in the way that it works in the European Union, in a way that we did not anticipate would be necessary, and obviously it's a huge struggle for my clients to get by week to week financially with making these kind of unanticipated investments, but they take it seriously from this town, they take it seriously from the Mass DEP, and they believe it's appropriate now to put conditions on, if the board sees them, that would be revisited after that testing, which is anticipated to happen at some point in May, with the results available some point in June. So that's why I entitled the document Temporary Conditions, because we would hope and expect that in light of that improvement, there may be more evidence that this board could consider, and during the course of the year, if those tests came back in whatever direction they came in, it may be appropriate for the board to modify whatever conditions it chooses to place. So that's why I entitled it Temporary Conditions. In regard to the conditions that we are respectfully asking for, it is clear on the basis of the professional testing, and I will invite the professional sound engineer from Epsilon Associates, who is present tonight, to present and explain to you some of the results that he has, but that in essence, all the testing that was done last year evidenced that the shredder was the most significant source of noise, and that shredder is the reason that the DEP, with its own sound engineers, ordered us to come up with the best system in the world to be able to address this system and this issue, which we have done. Epsilon will be able to explain to you that it is the expectation that the sound deadening acoustic enclosure that is visible now around the shredder will hopefully, as we can't guarantee anything because the testing hasn't been done. It would bring it into compliance, and we would be able to move forward with that issue resolved. When this board issued conditions last year, understandably, because you didn't have the benefit of that testimony, you made a blanket statement that there could be no activity on that property after 5 p.m. We are suggesting respectfully, if you were to take a look at the third topic, maintenance work, that, for example, the welders who have to weld equipment and the maintenance people who work on oiling the machinery, that they be permitted to work after 5 p.m. At this point, in the last several months since January, we've been honoring that nobody has been doing any work since 5 p.m. A number of things that are necessary to allow this business to function, and which are consistent with everything else in the industrial park, which is where this is located, could occur after 5 p.m. without any noise or any significant noise, and Epsilon will testify to that. So that would be things that are not associated with the shredder at all, but things such as maintenance work, cleaning up any debris that might be around the edges of where a delivery occurred. We would respectfully suggest that that could occur into the evening without having any shredders or anything else run. The second piece that is, we are respectfully requesting that the current conditions be modified, is that there is what's called the non-ferrous plant, which is located inside of a building. Just like other industrial facilities at that location, work can be done at many of these facilities after 5 p.m. when it's being done inside of a building. And we would respectfully ask that if the board was looking at conditions, one source for this board to look at is the special permit that was issued to Republic Waste. Although not built, it permitted work to be done 24 hours a day when that structure is built and that business locates there, because that's what the planning board required, and they required that after 11 p.m. the doors be shut so that any operation would stay in that. That permit predated my client getting its permit. So we would suggest, and again, this is for you, it was presented, I think, to your council last Friday, but it is something which we would like, as you go and deliberate and think about it over the course of this week, that you consider if the permit is to be issued with conditions, that you would say the non-noisome activity, which will permit material to be processed, is something which you would allow for in the after-hours period. And then the one other modification that we're respectfully requesting is that truck deliveries that you now restrict between 8 and 4 be allowed to go 1 hour earlier and 1 hour later, between 7 and 5. And that, again, would be consistent with the fact that, as this board is likely aware, many of the other businesses have trucks delivering as early as 5 a.m. and much after 5 p.m. So if the concern is that trucks are coming in and out of Ridge Hill Road, there is significant activity with other businesses. It is an industrial park. And toward that end, I am sure that your council provided to you the fact that neighbors were understandably upset when this operation began. There were a lot of things that my clients in the first 6 weeks did not anticipate. For example, at the first meeting I was at, there was some debris that was flying off of the machine that was causing some small pieces of paper to get into yards. That was resolved by covering all of the materials, and we haven't heard that particular complaint. I'm sure there's some people who will say that it existed and they may have old ones. This was something that was a problem early. It was a problem early. It was a problem that was addressed. The noise was more of a problem early, and it is being addressed. This is a situation in which it would not be fair to judge Excel from what existed in the first 6 weeks versus where it is today. In addition, we'd make the point that, as your own police department and fire department records indicate, and you're aware of, many times between the hours of 5 and 7 a.m., complaints came in where people blamed it on Excel, and in fact, when the police department arrived, they realized there was a lot of other businesses that were taking loads or their Jake brakes were going off and it was not Excel. I don't want to get any other business up there, and my clients don't want to get any other business up there in trouble. It is an industrial park. That's why those people bought in this area, and that's why my clients have invested their life savings into this area. And you're in a difficult position because you have neighbors who had an unused industrial park, who liked the quiet, who now live next to an industrial park that this town made a decision to zone that way and to encourage businesses to come. So we respectfully suggest that as far as the hours of delivery, 7 to 5 is not an unreasonable time. Adding an hour before your 8 to 4 restriction and an hour after would be reasonable. And as far as the shredder, we're keeping the restrictions that the DEP suggested and that are consistent. We're proposing with 1 hour more at the end of the day. You said 8 to 4, we're suggesting 8 to 5, respectfully. When we last presented here, one of the things that the board did not take evidence on, that in addition to the sound expert who will be the next person to speak, is the fact that in addition to my clients who invested their life savings in this place, there are over 100 families whose jobs depend upon that business. Approximately half of those may be employed directly by Excel, or a little less than half. More than half of them are independent truck drivers, are independent vendors that work. And a number of those folks are here tonight because they know that their abilities to provide for their families are also impacted by this board's decision. And the further that any of these hours are restricted, the less they are able to provide for their families. It's a difficult position that you're in as a board. You're trying to balance the interest of neighbors with the interest of a business that is trying to do the right things, that is making substantial investments. And I'd like to invite the sound engineer to speak more specifically on what sources of noise exist and how they've been addressed, and which activities are not real sources of noise, so that if you're going to craft conditions, you can do it with the benefit of all of the best evidence. To the extent that this group would like to, and has indicated that they would accept supplemental filing in writing after this meeting, upon hearing what the concerns of the neighbors are, upon hearing what the concerns of the boards are, we would like to reserve that right to supply certainly the public waste information that I gave you, the police record information that I suggested that we had available, in addition, any other questions that arise. And if the board wishes, at the conclusion of any evidence in which other folks speak, we'd be happy if you invite us to respond, if you would like us to. If not, and you prefer it in writing, I'll respect that as well. If you just let the representative from Epsilon come forward, we'd appreciate it.
Please state your name for the record. Come to the microphone.
My name is A.J. Jablonowski. I am from Epsilon Associates, an environmental consulting firm. I have been there for 10 years. I have been working with Excel Recycling for 1 year. And with your respect, we have a supplemental submittal that has been sent along, but I have copies to provide to you now to give additional details supporting the request that John has put into the record. I'll be very brief in my verbal comments if I can, and then be available for questions as people have those. People are aware of the site overview for Excel Recycling, approximately 5 acres of industrial zone land with a shredder, ferrous separation operations, non-ferrous separation operations. Speaking very specifically to the non-ferrous operations, because that is something that's in the request that John provided for extended hours associated with that. On May 4th, 2017, we performed a compliance test, which included a period when Excel Recycling only had their non-ferrous operations going on. As John described, those are predominantly in a building. I was there during that testing. The test results showed no increase in ambient noise during non-ferrous operation relative to the background that we've measured that same day with 0 Excel Recycling operations going on. While I was there, me and my staff did not hear the non-ferrous operations during the testing. That's consistent with other times that I have been at the facility. John also discussed being able to take truck deliveries. Being able to take truck deliveries would involve truck loading, truck maneuvering activities similar to other industrial operations at that industrial park. Summarizing what's in this submittal, the one piece of that that could be different at a metal recycling facility versus a different industrial unloading activity would be the unloading of the metal material. In July of 2017, we took some source-by-source measurements on site. That has been put into a computer model in order to be able to make estimates of what specific impacts could happen at specific locations from specific source activities. Taking a look at very specifically just the truck dumping operations. While those are happening, the model predicts 1 decibel, less than 1 decibel, 2 decibels, and directly at the property line, a 3 decibel change from background. Now, I understand that just talking generally in decibels isn't particularly helpful for somebody who doesn't do this all the time. So in context there, what is a 3 decibel increase? I've got a couple of citations here with Federal Highway Administration and EPA noting that a 3 decibel A-weighted change is barely perceptible. So the operation, as we understand it, that we are requesting the extended hours to be able to take deliveries would involve some circumstances where material is getting dropped through those deliveries, where there would be a barely perceptible change just during the period when that material happens, when that material is dropped. The third main point in the submittal is the fact that the ILG German enclosure is in place or very close to on its way in place, that the trommel walls are on their way up, that we have been in close contact with Massachusetts DEP regarding follow-up testing to be scheduled when that work is complete, and that the modeling that we have that we have constructed for the facility does predict that those enclosures will mitigate the main sources of noise at the facility, such that they are no longer the dominant noises in the area, and the modeling predicts that each of the residential receptors we looked at will be in compliance with the Massachusetts DEP noise policy. With that, I've probably talked enough, and I am available at the board's convenience for questions now or in follow-up.
I have just one question. The sound mitigation curtains, are they going, they're on the sides, are they also going on above the shredder, the trommel, that area?
Yes. It's actually quite visible. We were there earlier today. You can see it is going up, and it will block line of sight, which is very important for a noise perspective. It blocks line of sight associated with the entirety of the shredder, which our analysis has indicated is the main source of noise at the facility, and also goes up and blocks line of sight from the trommel, a secondary source, to all the residences in the area.
Will it have a roof enclosure?
The shredder mostly does, the trommel does not. The trommel is definitely a three-part wall. The shredder is keeping the existing roof and has the material there. There does need to be there is a requirement for the shredder to have airflow through the system, so that it is not a firm roof all the way through, but that is accounted for in the three-dimensional model, the CAD-A model that was used. So the actual dimensions of what's in there is in the model that predicted compliance at the receptors.
Does the sound change with atmospheric condition changes?
Yes, absolutely.
And is that figured into the model also, or is it figured for an ideal day?
The model actually is configured for a conservative day, and some of that is in the details about how conservative assumptions are put in that are in the November 17th submittal to Mass DEP, which we are also including, entering into the record. I don't have copies of that available here.
I have copies.
Okay, Sean does. There are a certain number of assumptions that do need to be made about atmospheric conditions, about leaves on trees, about surface roughness of the ground between the noise source and the noise receptor. They are general conservative assumptions associated with it. I would say, especially at this point in time, when the enclosure is very nearly completed, that this analysis was useful to a large extent for Excel Recycling to know that their money was being well spent, to know that what they were doing had a good chance of getting them where they need to be. At this point, I would encourage all to wait for completion of that and completion of the actual noise testing to see where things really stand.
Can you tell me how tall is that wall?
No, not off the top of my head.
Which wall?
The
The
current
one,
wall.
the one around the shredder.
Yes.
It goes to the full height of the shredder.
Okay. The second question is the canisters, the container wall, is that staying in place?
Yes.
Will it be reconstructed to the original height, or is it going to stay at the two box height?
That I do not know.
I can answer the two of the questions that you asked.
At this point, in regard to the first question, our understanding is that it's 42 feet is the height, which gets you above the top of the shredder, as far as that, the enclosure, the acoustic enclosure. And as for the height of the canisters, at this point, we're keeping them at the height that is too high, which is the same height that it was permitted for originally. Before we had this installed, before we had the acoustic enclosure, we thought it would be better for the neighbors to go up the extra to help them in the interim. But at this point, with the acoustic enclosure, the expectation is, and the testing that was done in advance, is that that's how high they're expecting it to be able to still be, in compliance with the noise issues. But again, it's something that if it becomes something that DEP wants or that you believe is more beneficial, we are here to try to work with the town. That is not our desire to say we're only going to do it this way. We just think that's the most prudent way right now with the enclosure that's there, and it's consistent with the original permit.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
This time I'd like to have a Board of Health come up. Sorry, just a health agent.
Derek Casito, health agent. Just want to read a prepared statement.
Can't hear.
This better?
If you're going to read, Derek, just read slow, okay?
I started in Freetown in August 2017, and I immediately was introduced to Excel. At first, I heard all the complaints and met with the residents when they called, scheduled a meeting with the Costas at Excel to get a better understanding of the operation, and met with Mass DEP officials to learn where they were at with the investigation. I listened to residents and also listened to the Costas about what it was that was going on at the location and how it was affecting the residents. The complaints were mostly about noise, smoke, and odor. There were also complaints about explosion-type sounds and questions about stormwater runoff. Some preliminary testing for air quality was conducted when Excel opened and came back clean. During my inspections around the area of Excel, there were days when the smell was clearly in the air. It is usually an oily, rusty odor. It is not, however, consistent on the days where there is an odor. When the wind is blowing in the proper direction, the odor is strong. There are days when if you are in the area for 15 to 20 minutes, you will start getting symptoms to the odor. It makes it very difficult to be out in the yard for any period of time. We have done testing since in cooperation with Mass DEP for petroleum in the air, which came back with low readings, but still the odor persists with the right wind direction. The smoke steam was another issue. When I met with the Costas, they told me it was water that was used to cool the metals that is being shredded. Mass DEP also confirmed this. There are days when you look at the smoke or steam and it's very opaque and dissipates very quickly, like steam. There have also been days where it does not act like steam and acts more like a smoke. It doesn't dissipate, it is much thicker, darker in color, and travels for a distance. I have witnessed debris in neighbors' yards that claim are coming from Excel. In the neighbors' yards, it's most light plastic or paper scraps. In one case, there was a long section of plastic that landed in a pool. I was always skeptical to call these pieces of paper or plastic from Excel until I went on site and did an inspection and was finding the same types of paper and plastic on the property. Directly around Excel, around the area, back corner, and the railroad tracks, there are small metal pieces and pieces of plastic. There has been observed on Ridge Hill between Excel and Main Street, metal scrap. We have received numerous complaints of explosions and the ground shaking. I have personally not witnessed one of these explosions. However, I have had business owners on South Main Street who have not logged any complaints tell me about feeling an explosion around the time a complaint came in. Recently, during the major storm that hit on 3-2-3-3, we received complaints that the sound barrier wall had fallen on the Alexandria Drive side. Excel insists they took the wall down for safety reasons. They were concerned that the wall would fall and damage other property. When I was on site with the building inspector and the costers, the containers that were on the ground looked consistent with containers that had fallen. One was upright but on a pile of scrap, two were on their sides, and one appeared to be laying on one of the new beams. There is no one reason why I feel like Excel has become an issue for the residents of Alexandria and High Street. It's a combination of all the things listed for an extended period of time. In the 8 months I've worked for Freetown, we've logged over 400 complaints between my office and the Selectmen's office, not including the hundreds of emails I have received. I have witnessed all these complaints for myself. I've smelled the odors, heard the noise, and seen the debris. However the outcome, I will continue to inspect, I will continue to be vigilant, and I will use what resources are available to me to ensure the health and safety for Freetown. Thank you.
Before you leave, any questions? Have you or your predecessor logged any warnings or fines with Excel?
My predecessor had one warning and one fine. I, to this point, have not issued any fines. I've been more inspecting and just gathering information. I didn't feel that the fine was necessarily going to do much as opposed to just gathering the information and trying to build the case.
On the fine, what fine would you be able to impose? If you-
At this point, the only one would probably be a trash fine. That's something that's a little bit more tangible, something that you can see.
Is that something you have to directly witness, or is that something that evidence can prove out?
It helps to witness it. It's starting to get to the point, though, that the evidence is starting to become substantial that it could be done.
No other questions from the board at this time. Thank you. This time the board would like to call the zoning enforcement officer and building inspector to speak. Mr. Scott Barbato.
Good evening. My name is Scott Barbato. I work for the town of Freetown. My name is Scott Barbato, the building commissioner in the town of Freetown. And good evening.
Do you have a prepared statement at all?
No, I was asked to address a couple of questions if asked by the town administrator today.
I have a couple of questions for you. What's the current status of the project? What is open for building permits at this time?
Currently, there was 3 permits, 2 are still open. The first permit that was the initial building permit issued had more to do with equipment rather than a building. That was the equipment that processes the scrap metal. We issued a building permit under controlled construction for that. It has not been closed out. Most of the inspections that were required to be done were done by the electrical inspection department because there's a lot of electrical equipment there. And my electrical inspector, at the request to respond back to me, didn't do it in time because they don't work in the office. They're part-time employees. So I hadn't got that information back yet. But I ran down the whereabouts of the permit. It's not available right now, but I will recreate that, find out the status of it, and get it closed out through Steve Giosa, the civil engineer responsible for the project.
What was the other permits you opened?
The other permit, one was a demo permit, 80 by 40 concrete block building that was closed out and the building was removed. And the other one is a sounding attenuation device, the device that we just recently permitted, that covers the trommel and the shredder. And that's in process right now. The different percentages I really wouldn't want to agree or disagree with. It's close to finish. I was up there today. The sound attenuation device that is on the shredder appears to be complete, and the trommel, the frame is complete. I can't tell which more work installing the panels or putting up the frame, but the frame appears to be most of the work. So I wouldn't disagree with the percentages, or just be a slight amount off. It's just about complete.
Again, that's a controlled build, that's not under...
That's under controlled construction. Steve Giosa, the civil engineer, and he's been asked specifically to give a final report, especially for the canisters, which he's agreed to and submitted to, and I don't anticipate any difficulties with that. He's already communicated with the department that that the canisters will meet the building code, and that it is more than sufficient based on his professional reputation and education, and we rely on that.
He is a stamped engineer.
He is. We did bring up the question about the 3. He did address it, but with 2, I don't think that there's much of a question that the canisters being welded would be almost a practical matter, but he will back it up, and he's expected to.
And is that one building permit that regulates both the canisters and the sound mitigation curtains that are being put up?
There's 2 open permits right now, and one is mostly for equipment, not a building. That was the original permit that established the use for the Costas. And the other now is just a recent permit that was issued 3/20/2018, not too long ago, for sound attenuation. But both are under controlled construction.
What's the current determination of current zoning on the property?
The current zoning of that piece of property right now would be pre-existing non-conforming due to the fact that the zoning change requires a special permit for any scrap metal processing in that zone.
And that changed when?
At the town meeting after 2016, so I would say probably in the spring of 2016. Just to clarify, the special permit or by right, that action was taken. So that puts the business in a pre-existing non-conforming status. So any expanse of an activity on that property would have to go to the zoning board of appeals to be allowed.
You made a determination that it was a scrap metal facility. Can you just give us
I
a
did.
quick summation of what went into that decision?
Well, there was 2 locations in the book that it could have fit into. One would be by right, and one was a special permit. The scrap metal processing was very clear. There's 13 junkyards in this town. People understand there's a lot of trucking. And the commercial recycling that everyone in hindsight thought it would have fit into initially before anybody discussed it, we felt that was more like the transfer station, similar to what the other company's going to do, the name station right now. But transferring recyclable products like plastic, paper, and those items. Scrap metal processing, I believe, was more accurate due to the fact that the Costas take scrap metal, and it is still scrap metal. It is processed in the industrial zone. And that decision, I think, as we all know, but maybe I wouldn't mind stating it for everybody, was challenged at the zoning board of appeals level, and that is the proper challenge for it, and that was not overturned. So that decision was upheld by the zoning board of appeals, and it was not brought to court subsequently.
That concludes the questions from the board at this point.
Thank you.
Anything else, Excel?
No, Mr. Chairman.
At this point, I'd like to open up to the neighbors to give comment. Again, please be respectful. We're going to go to the microphone, announce your name, your address. Speak somewhat slowly, please, because the stenographer is trying to keep up with this. We can't all be talking at the same time because she won't be able to keep an accurate record. This record may be used in the future, unknown if there's any litigation will happen from this record. So it's important that we speak clearly, slowly, at the microphone. As you saw me earlier on, I had to adjust my tone and my cadence. Let's just make a line right at the microphone and the next person speaks. So Butch, if you don't mind stepping up, state your name for the record. Name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Linwood Hartford, a.k.a. Butch. I live at 68 High Street, and I am about a half a mile as the crow flies from Excel. I've been there since 1953. Never have I heard any noise from the direction of Excel. Never had any toxic fumes, never had any dust, never had any debris. And to me, they've just been an asset to the town. On another point is, the town bylaws say that commercial construction can begin at 7 a.m. I don't know what the termination time is, but I know it is 7 o'clock, so they've been imposed a 8 o'clock starting point. And the other thing I want to bring up is, the town just paid off multi-million-dollar suit to a couple of companies in town. Now, if we keep busting their ass, we are going to be in more trouble and pay more dollars than the previous millions that we lost. Thank you.
Please. We're just here to have testimony. Thank you for the bottle butch, but not necessary. Let's keep that all to a minimum, please. Thank you.
But it was, I thought it was nice.
Anybody else like to speak? You don't have to raise your hand, just go and make a line, find the microphone is fine.
My name is Steve Tripp, I'm 4 Alexander Drive. My name is Steve Tripp from 4 Alexander Drive over Minnesota. You still can't hear?
Right into the microphone. Right into the microphone.
Steve Tripp, 4 Alexander Drive, Minnesota. As for all these problems that have all been fixed from Excel, if you'd like, I give you a whole bag that I went and picked up on Sunday. There's a whole nother bag of metal that I picked up on Sunday from Ridge Hill Road, from everybody getting flats. There's another bag of steel that's all along the exit ramp on 24, which all rolls out of his trucks. So as for all the problems that were supposed to be fixed, none are fixed. As for the smoke and everything else flying out of that place, I know the rest of the town, I mean, I know you've all had enough of your own pictures that I've already given you and stuff, but this is not, this is smoke. There's no steam, it's blue, it all flies down through the neighborhood, and you can say what you want about it, but it stinks, and there's no need for us to breathe this. As for his sound expert, I don't know if you're the same guy you had the last time, but the last guy was saying the sound was all fine, and everything was gonna be great. You know, he said that if you talk to a person, you are over the sound limit. That's what they said. Well, let me tell you something. It's way over that. It's way over talking. And you know, we've been through this for 3 years now. So much for extending another period of giving the license again, okay? Because now we're just going to run into another whole year of this stuff. And we've all about had it. There's just no way around this. Nothing's being fixed. You can say what you want about putting up that sound mitigation. It's already up, and the thing is still just as noisy. So, I don't know where these people come up with all their experts and everything, but it's just not working. And, you know, the council said that they wanted to be good neighbors, and it wasn't going to impact the neighborhood. That was the whole thing at the beginning, right? So much for good neighbors, and so much for not impacting the neighborhood. Because everybody in the neighborhood is suffering from pools being ruined, from people's houses, all the explosions going up. Plus, no one can understand how you can't catch an explosion. But if I turned around and popped a bag, let me tell you, do you think you could catch that on film? It's just something exploding. It's not causing fires, not yet anyhow. But what happens when you do get one of these fires that you see in all these scrap metal facilities, okay? Is the town ready to put those out? Do we have a foreman truck down there? What's going to happen to it? All the neighborhood's houses are all going to burn, and the LLC is just going to walk away and say, hey, sorry. I have a mother-in-law who's 85 years old, lives with us. She's got breathing problems. I can't even go out my front door of my house because the smells come flying in at her. You know, I have to go out through my garage. This is a health hazard. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. It just doesn't belong there. And if you're gonna put this up against Republic building their facility is still way up the other end, and their building was already checked, it was supposed to be in negative pressures and everything. Where's the negative pressures for this place? Nothing. And so much for running the other facility, the other things, all those conveyor belts all make noises all night long. So I don't know what you could say that everything's quiet over there, because it's not quiet. And that's so much for the DEP. They're a real great help, okay? It's not Department of Environmental Protection, it's Department of Environmental Pollution, because they haven't done a thing for us. They can't, you don't even know where the stormwater goes, whether it runs off, where it goes. You don't know anything else. I kept saying they were shredding tires. Everybody was saying, no, they don't shred tires. Now all of a sudden they have a permit to shred tires. So every time we bring something up, they turn around and get a license for it. It just doesn't make any sense. You know, this will be 3 years that we can't use our yards in the summer because we have to tolerate all the smoke and stuff. So I don't even mow my grass until after 5 o'clock because we can't stand out there because of the smell. You know, and like it says, the plastic, oh, it's supposed to be all set, right? Sunday I walked around and picked up the whole bag. There's nothing fixed. It's all the same stuff over and over again. And we're going to go through it, we give them another license, we'll be through it for a whole nother year. And we'll be back here again next year doing the same thing. So it's just time to cut your losses and leave town. That's all there is to it.
Steve, do you have anything you want to submit to the board for us?
No, because I'm going to probably have to use this for evidence when whatever we're going to use it for. I mean,
If you want to submit anything to the board, you can do this.
Show them this, we got this off the highway.
Okay.
Show this to
Please.
that gentleman over here. You guys can see him. Let's do it. Yeah.
I mean, I can give you this stuff, I put it in a plastic bag because it probably burns your eyes if you touch your face or something after you use it.
Oh, my.
Like I said, everything's a joke. So.
Look at it.
Please, please.
You want this stuff? No, it doesn't have Excel's name on
Please,
it.
no crosstalk. You're addressing the board, no crosstalk. Anything you want to give to consider, Steve. Put that stuff there, you got pictures and anything else you want.
Keep them up all night. These are from Friday, it's not at 5 o'clock.
I'll ask you, do you want to go back? I can pull any other from you.
And the shit at the, on the highway.
Let me call. Mr. Tripp, when were these taken and where were they taken?
The picture is all blue, the smoke coming through the neighborhood. That was taken from my yard, and that was last Friday when I took the day off, which I ended up choking all day, all night long after being outside with it. And
Please.
I know, it's funny.
Please.
Those were taken Friday, so that just shows you how much has been fixed.
Thank you. Before, ma'am, if it's okay, we did reach out to DEP, of course, to try to get them to come to this meeting, or at least give us something to know, let us know what's going on. At 3:57 p.m., we received an answer to our request. Mr. Chico is going to read it into the record.
Can you guys hear me? Thanks for the email as well as your voicemail from earlier this morning. As you may be aware, on October 16, 2017, Mass DEP and Excel entered into an administrative consent order with penalty, which, among other things, required Excel to install sound mitigation materials around the shredder by February 15, 2017. On February 14, 2018, Mass DEP received an email from Excel requesting that Mass DEP extend the date for the installation of the sound mitigation materials from February 15th, 2018 until March 31st, 2018. On February 15th, 2018, Mass DEP denied the deadline extension request because Excel did not provide necessary documentation as required by paragraph 34 of the ACOP to justify an extension to March 31st, 2018. On February 23rd, 2018, Mass DEP issued a stipulated penalty demand notice, ACOP 00003447 STIP, to Excel in the amount of $8,000 for failure to meet the February 15th, 2018 deadline covering the period between February 16th through February 23rd, 2018. On March 16th, 2018, Excel filed a notice of claim for adjudicatory appeal of stipulated penalty demand notice from Mass DEP's Office of Appeals and Dispute Resolution. Mass DEP has been pursuing resolution of the stipulated demand notice, as well as issues the circumstances surrounding the displacement of some of the sound mitigation wall that occurred sometime during the weekend of March 2nd, 2018, in non-compliance with the required deadline for the completed installation of the sound mitigation materials. It is Mass DEP's understanding that tonight's meeting relates to the renewal of the town-issued second-hand furniture and merchandise license. As Mass DEP and Excel are currently engaged in confidential enforcement deliberations to address the above issues, Mass DEP cannot attend tonight's meeting to discuss the substance of these discussions. Best, Anthony.
Thank you. Ma'am, I apologize for stopping. Go ahead.
My name is Cindy Senra. I'm from 16 Alexander Drive. Can you hear me now? Okay, sorry. Cindy Senra from 16 Alexander Drive. I have been a resident on Alexander Drive for 15 years. I have also lived in town since I was 7 years old. So I have been in town for well over 30 years. And I have never seen anybody get away with what Excel is getting away with. I support businesses, I support free enterprise, but we all have restrictions, we all have guidelines that we have to follow in order to stay in business and be fair and equal to our neighbors, our other businesses in town. This company feels that they have the right to do whatever they want, whenever they want, and however they want, and not be held accountable. I'm sorry if I'm talking fast, I get a little riled up. It bothers me that we've been trying to work with them. We've given them every opportunity. DEP has given them every opportunity, and they missed another deadline. And they're asking for another extension on top of the fact that they knew they should have that in before this license came up for renewal. Because guess what? If you had done it, we wouldn't be here fighting you today. So in our defense, if you did what you were asked to do, we wouldn't have to stand here today and argue all over again. I'm just so frustrated that my children have to breathe this air that burns their eyes. They are asthmatic. It's horrible to hear my child crying, calling me, 16 years old, "Mom, the house just shook again. I'm afraid something's going to happen." My children shouldn't have to live like this. My family shouldn't have to live like this. I don't know why they feel that they're so special and above the law. It's not fair to the residents. My pool, I have had for 15 years. I've never had one problem with it until they moved in. I have debris that I have bags of collected, and I'm not giving it to you, unfortunately, because I'm building my own case against Excel at this point. I am frustrated. I'm disappointed that the town hasn't been able to do something about it. I'm disappointed that DEP can't even take the time to show up and discuss the issues with us. If they feel that it's under control, then why don't they stand up and say it's under control? They don't want to do it. The board just keeps granting them more powers, and we're the ones that are suffering. I have cracks in my ceiling that I've never had. It started in January of last year. Like I said, my house is 15 years old. If it was settling cracks, it would have happened a long time ago, not last January once they started running their testing and all of that. The noise and the vibrations in my house, I can put a glass of water on my coffee table and see the rings shaking from the vibrations from them. I have pictures on a shelf, a glass shelf, that vibrate and make noise. This is not acceptable. I know you guys all think it's funny, but it's not acceptable for the people that are living in this every day. If you think it's acceptable, buy my house. Come live in my house with your family. Honestly, it's not fair. As far as Excel stated that they have vested their life savings in this business, I agree. I believe that. I'm not doubting that at all. But I have also invested my life savings in my house for my family, and now that's at risk. My children are at risk, my health is at risk, my children's health are at risk, and that doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't sit well with the neighborhood, and it's just not fair. And as far as Steve brought up the ground pollution, nothing's being monitored. Nothing's been monitored for the last year. So now, when is that going to start to happen? We know that there's shredding materials that they didn't originally plan on shredding. The explosions, I mean, it's just one thing after another. And I support all you truck drivers, I support all you workers. It's not your fault that they're the ones telling you what to do and how to do it. It's just not fair to the neighborhood.
Okay. Butch, before you go, because we're under time constraints, I'm going to ask other people to speak, and then if there's time left, I'll have you come back and speak, okay?
Except one question, sir. I think I read in the itinerary that rebuttal will not be heard.
Excuse me?
I want to rebut some of the testimony.
Correct. We're not going to do rebuttals. We have a
Okay.
mic behind it, Butch. and
That's fine.
We're just having people testify, and then, because we're on time constraints. Once everybody's done, if somebody wants to come back,
We need for you to sit down.
I said,
Sit down.
there was nobody here.
Please sit down. That's a go. That's a sit down. We're running out of
Go
time.
ahead, Mary, please.
Like past 7.
Butch,
They should have been,
please sit.
they should have been in line before me.
They were.
No, they were not. I was the first one they
All right, Butch, I'm asking you, everybody who doesn't comment, you were allowed your time. Please let them have their time. If there's time left, I'll let you come back.
They should have got up earlier.
Hello, my name is Ellen Nema, 41 High Street, Minnesota.
All the way.
Pull it down. Speak right into
That's the lowest it goes. Hello?
There you go.
All right. After the winter storms that Bob and I have been working outside a lot, especially this past weekend, and on Sunday evening, I remarked to Bob, I wish DEP could test now. The only thing they would have heard would have been marsh beepers and songbirds. Living in town over 60 years, first 30 years in the village, and I was on Water Street, Elm Street, and South Main Street. So I am used to noise, I am used to traffic. But when I moved up to High Street in 1986, 41 High Street, we found peace and serenity, and the State Forest is a good neighbor. To excel in your sound engineer, the 90% reduction sound curtain is not working. And I can attest to that living at 41 High Street. We are higher on High Street. The sound of their operations and the explosions continues to occur on a 6-day-a-week basis. The leaves on the trees do not break the sound. It is not only the sound. My primary concern is groundwater. Excel is located above the main aquifer for a summit. And that particular aquifer provides the water for the wells in the homes, many of them in the village. The rainwater drains through the large piles of shredded materials, and God knows what's in those materials. When we had our 260-foot well dug, the well company told us we hit an underground river at 80 gallons a minute. So it can come quite quickly from that location. Throughout the town, we have had unfortunate occurrences where there have been groundwater contamination of residents' wells. Why wait for this to happen here? Freetown has successfully stopped a coal gasification plant, a Florida landfill, a fly ash operation, and wells had to be dug to monitor this. The residents are not the only ones impacted. This is the pile of debris that Bob and I collected this past weekend. As you can see, there's tons of stuff. It's silver, it's clear. I'm sorry. As you can see, there's lots of stuff. This is at 41 High Street. Like Butch, I'm a quarter of a mile away, and it's already up there. And it impacts, unfortunately, this was filled with a nest. And the nest is filled with that shredded material. Okay? This is the third nest I've taken that has these materials in it. It is not, this operation is horrendous. for a residential neighborhood. I don't mind the trucks that go back and forth. I don't mind the beeping noises through the night sometimes when they're loading the trucks. I'm talking about the vibration that she was talking about that hits my house and things shake in my house and I'm a quarter of a mile away. It's ridiculous. It really is. Thanks.
Thank you. Mary, Ellen, can you please,
Ellen.
Get your name. Can you please put your name again for the record?
Ellen Lima, L-I-M-A. I'm at 4100 Street.
Thank you.
Edwin Carrero, 3 Alexandra. A lot of these issues, I can say, I've also experienced explosions, the toxic fumes. It's basically rendered my home unusable. I can't have my daughter outside to play. I decided not to put a pool in. Can't have the cookouts like I used to. On December 29, 2017, I witnessed a sound, vibrating sound echoing through my home. And I want you to see if I can play this. Do it on my phone. So, basically,
Unfortunately, we can only hear testimony, or if you want to submit something to us, we can take
I
submissions.
submitted this to Derek.
Okay.
And one of the things I mentioned to Derek was the vibrations are so tremendous that they're rattling the homes continuously. And in the winter, when the earth is very ice cold, literally my slider, the pane within the glass was rattling.
Do you know when you submitted that to Derek?
Around December.
Derek, do you know if you have that?
Derek, you have the one with my slider vibrating?
If you could submit it again as part of this proceeding, send it to the town administrator,
Yeah.
that would be appreciated.
So one of the things I said to Derek was, you know, we're getting cracks in our drywall that we never had before. We have all these propane run homes. What about our gas lines? Eventually they're going to potentially become loosened by this constant vibration. We're going to have potentially with gas leaks and explosive hazards in our own homes. I have a significant concern about this vibration amongst the other concerns that everyone mentioned. I would recommend that if the town does consider renewing, that they have someone come in and study all the foundations, because I assure you that all the foundations on these homes, these cracks are getting exacerbated by this constant vibration. And that's all I have to say.
Donna Amarantis, 36 High Street. Donna Amarantis, 36 High Street. Oh, that's the one.
Close right into it. Thank you.
Donna Amarantis, 36 High Street. My house is high on a hill. I have 3 cleared acres, which was originally a horse farm. Backs right down to the railroad tracks, which to the left of that is Excel's building, right? Just referring to the vibrations, last week I was standing in my master bedroom, which faces their property, and I don't know what I was doing, but the whole floor was vibrating. And I'm saying to myself, what is it doing to my foundation of the house? My house is 110 feet long altogether. What is this doing to my foundation? You know, not to mention, I think I told Derek one time, it was such a boom. I was sitting on the side of the glass table, I was writing. The pen actually rolled off the table, right? And this is another problem we've had. Over the last 6 months, I've had 4 busted windows. They just break. And in the month of March, that I noted myself, there were 7 booms. And the last break was about, I'm assuming, I washed them about 3 weeks ago. The window was fine. I went there to put fertilizer on the side of the house. I looked up, the window is all shattered. It's like unbelievable. I got 3 bills here for $300. I paid $100 each time the window was broke. Now I got another one broke from 3 weeks ago, and I'm waiting for the man to come and fix it next week because he's so busy. I mean, what is this? And when is it going to stop? I understand there's people here that have to work. I understand that, and everybody's losing money. Believe me, a contractor told me last summer when I was having work done on my house, you'll never sell this house with that there. What am I going to do? And not only that, my sister's freaking out. She went online. She's done it. Do you know how dangerous this is? I'm feet from the state forest, right? There's trees all around, dry grass going down to the railroad track. Supposedly there's a spot. I've seen, before they put up these railroad cars, I've seen mounds of the metal recycling and the, they told me it was household stuff, smoking. What happens in July and August when it's 90 and 95 out, everything's dry? A spark comes from this place. I mean, we're all going. That state forest, I think it's 6,000 acres, that's gonna go too. I mean, this is insane. Does anybody have any? No. I understand it's about money. It's, you know, like I said, I'm gonna lose money. I mean, Whiteman lost money when he sold his house. I think there's 2 houses that have been foreclosed on down there, or there's signs on the door from the bank. I mean, how much money are we gonna, and not to mention, they're waiting for the railroad to come through. What are they gonna do? What's that gonna be like? Where's this, are they gonna load scrap metal? What is that? Do you know anything about that? That's all I got.
Is there anything you'd like to submit to the board for consideration?
You wanna look at these bills?
You either can submit it to us and we keep them, or
No,
you...
well, I'll submit this to you. I don't know. This is my I put my family flipping out.
Thank you. If you'd like to... Thank you. If you'd like to make copies and submit them of the bills, feel free.
Are they gonna pay me for them? No, that's my time.
Hi, we at 87 Friend Street in Summit. What she says is right about the fire hazard. This is the biggest explosion risk in town. Excel, when you do end up relocating, you won't be alone. You won't be the first scrap recycling facility to relocate out of concern for neighboring businesses, neighboring residences. You are an absolute nuisance that needs to find another home in an appropriate industrial park. You knew full well on June 1st of 2015 that that was probably a possibility, if not a probability, if you were real about your industry. You made it very clear to the board that you understood your license could be revoked at their pleasure if there was a multitude, to quote Scott Barbado, of complaints that came in. He told the board what their leverage was as far as pulling your permit, tacking on restrictions, which I think were beyond the point of restrictions. I think that your license absolutely needs to be revoked. And I just want to ask the board, everything that I've submitted to you over the last 18 months, is that part of the record that you'll be considering as you vote on Monday? Or do I need to resubmit everything?
We have extensive...
It's a huge record.
You've given, yes. All that will be considered.
It will. Okay.
Only things that we take in will be actually in the official record, but all those will be in consideration.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. The last few days, I've taken it upon myself to transcribe that June 1st meeting. So Excel's words are all right here, and I'd like to submit that now. I have one quick question for Scott.
We're not here for questions.
Oh, we're not.
Tonight. We're just
Oh,
listening to
okay,
testimony.
all right. So that's pretty much all the other speakers.
Thank you.
So, my name is Pedro Neves from 9 Alexander.
Sorry, I didn't get that at all. What's your name?
My name is Pedro Neves, N-E-V-E-S, for the record, from 9 Alexander Drive, and I'm Excel's favorite neighbor. So, I've been living there for about 5 years. I came to town because I wanted to come to live and raise a family in a quiet, nice neighborhood, and in a very nice town as Arizona, as everybody knows, the people that live here. It was great until Excel started grounds to build a property, which the neighbors, I wasn't even aware. When I became aware of the situation, I raised the concerns because any reasonable, common resident, human being can just kind of go on OSHA and understand what a facility such as Excel does. And that raised a lot of concerns that today we are discussing. And unfortunately, as Mr. Mr. Costa stated, to Joe, myself, and it was the day before my wedding last year, when he was doing inspections, he was nice enough to take us inside and give us an open house, as he likes to call it, right? He has an open house policy, as he states. So we were having a conversation. He states that he's been in the industry maybe 20, 30 years. But what's funny is if someone is in an industry for 20, 30 years, wouldn't you know this was going to become a problem? By building a facility near residences, properties, people that live there. So anyway, I'm just curious about that. I mean, it bugs my mind how someone does not know that. So moving forward, as Mr. I believe John, attorney from Excel, states that that they've been reasonable. Well, nothing about Excel has been reasonable, if you ask me. They break the law. They're not in compliance with the EP as they state they are, because they're not. Because if they were not being fined every day, I believe $1,000. So they don't meet their deadline. A few weeks ago, we were here, and most of the neighbors kind of kindly, so you know, kindly agreed to give you some extra time to do what you need to do to put those sound barriers. Probably I was the first one to actually agree. Let them do what they need to do. And guess what? They're not in compliance. Does that surprise you? Regarding Mr. Attorney John again states that that there's other facilities that are similar. There's no other facilities that are similar to Excel, except trucks back and forth. There's no such thing as another facility that like Excel. I mean, are we living in the same world here? It bugs my mind. It just, maybe I'm living in a different world. So, I mean, when they're asking for extending hours, I mean, if they were reasonable, I guess maybe I would say, yeah. But they haven't been reasonable for the past 2 years. So no. Because, my son, which, as you probably saw, is just about over 2 years, and he wakes up to the noises. Yes, to the noises, when you drop those containers, because they do make noise, if you're not aware. Because maybe they don't live there. But they do make noise when the big booms, not the booms of explosions, but the booms of also dropping those containers. So let's talk about here what Mr. Mata states that there's allegations. He states this to the South Coast today, right? To the Herald News or whatever they did an interview. Standard Times. Mr. Costa, this is his words, right? I mean, I'm just quoting you. I'm assuming this is true, because it's quotes. Mr. Mata addresses the allegations of dust and debris flying from the facility. Quotes, end quote. We addressed it immediately by covering all of our conveyors where any kind of wind could take any of the fluff, if you call fluff, metals, okay? Our transfer points were lowered and we introduced moisture to all the conveyor system, which anything that's lighter than that, then the metals get saturated with water, which alleviates the ability for it to become airborne. I mean, I think you saw the evidence, right? It's been airborne, and this was, I believe, back when their first was a huge nuisance. The truth to be said, they did do something about it. It's been better. Have they resolved the issue? No. Are they in compliance? Not that I think so. Not that I know, right? Maybe I live in a different world again. Regarding the hotline, that he states that they instituted a hotline after many complaints. The hotline, yeah, we called the hotline for sure. But their response was there's no problem. So why would we be calling you? if you don't resolve the situation. You haven't resolved the situation. Why would we call you? To tell us that maybe we're arresting you? Because unfortunately, you do have more money than me, and maybe all of us, which is fine. It's yours. You deserve it. I'm not against your kind of business. I actually promote, and I've told you this. I support recycling and all that stuff. I support all the employees. It has nothing to do with that. You have a building, a business that's in the wrong place. And this is not going to be resolved, despite of all your experts, because apparently, as Steve has stated, you actually, Mr. Costa stated this to us, that I think his first company that he hired for sound environment flunked, and the chances are, with all the respect to the gentleman that's an expert as well in sound litigation and so on, I have my doubts that this is going to work again. It will improve maybe some, but I doubt it. So again, good luck. So regarding the hotline, yes, we didn't call that because we don't feel that you listened to us, and you actually, I think Joe Branco can talk about on the hotline. Regarding the booms, I'll try to move fast, but this is my time. I do live, in town. Regarding the booms, I have picture frames that have fallen. So, I mean, I've never had a picture frame that fallen in my house, except, since XL started operations, heavy operations, with vibrations. Maybe there's some kind of wind inside the house that projects those frames to the floor, but who knows. Regarding the vibrations, I have vibrations.
You kind of didn't get the last time.
Okay, well, I'm just saying that the frames basically fall, and, that's the main point. Regarding the vibrations, I mean, unfortunately, excuse my language, but when I sit on my toilet, my body vibrates. How cool is that? That is pretty awesome. I mean, this is a fact. I'm not joking. It's a fact. When I'm in bed, when I'm in lay, my furniture vibrates. I mean, you come, I invite you, like you, Mr. Costa states that he has an open facility, open house. Well, I have an open house for you. You come and check it out. Right? I'd be happy to invite you. Okay. So, well, I'm just inviting him to my house. So my son, regarding the fuel, regarding the booms, yes, I have a big slider door that hasn't broken, but I swear to God, I swear to my son, sometimes I wake up, because I work nights, I'm a nurse, I work nights, so sometimes I wake up, it varies, right? There are sometimes 2-3 times a week, sometimes it's 10 times once a week, sometimes it's once a week. I mean, I don't count. But the fact is that I wake up to these booms explosions that sometimes I feel like in the middle of a war zone. Some of them are more intense than others. It's a fact. My son sometimes goes crazy and starts yelling. My dog goes out of his mind, okay, or her mind. So the booms are a fact. Again, unless I have dreams, I'm psychotic, but I don't think I am. Regarding my son, yes, like Steve said, I mean, the summer is approaching. I can't bring him outside. One of the first times I've noticed the air quality was really bad is when I went for a run last year around the neighborhood, and when I came back, I actually started having pains because of the intense smell. So I'll move on. Regarding the, what else?
It'd be at 7:30.
Okay.
It's just people that are in line. We'll let them speak. After that, we're going to cut off.
Okay, so one more thing regarding the open door policy they stated, and I'll sit down after this. And it's interesting because at times, it's not just me. I believe Lear has experienced this. As he states, he has an open house so people can go check it out. Well, I've been outside, not even near the gate, but on the street, and I'm not saying there's trucks that come out and they ask us, "Are you lost?" "No, I'm not lost." "Well, sounds like you're lost." "No, I'm not lost." So it's kind of like not so much of an open house. It's kind of like intimidating and arresting, if you ask me. So anyway, I wish you good luck, but I think you would have better luck if you just pack your stuff, leave, and just take responsibility for your own actions. Which, by the way, those containers didn't fall. You didn't remove them; they fell. I was there. I was putting my generator on outside in the snow. It was about 3:15. I hadn't woken up from sleeping, and I went outside to put generators on. 1 minute they're there. I heard a big boom. I look up. They're on the floor. I came inside the house. There was a second boom, so they didn't fall.
Thank you. Sir?
My name is William Maxim. I lease a property on 13 Bridge Hill Road, that vast expanse of dirt between Stell and the Alexandria Drive. I want to ask you a few questions. I want to know, have you ever heard of two-stroke?
We're not here to answer questions.
All right, well,
If you're here, we're listening to your testimony, whatever you'd like to tell us.
absolutely, no problem. Two-stroke airplane.
Speak more into the mic.
All right, two-stroke airplane, way louder than the shredder. I've been over in my lot, attending to my trucks, and they come flying through the lot at accelerated speeds all the time. And I haven't heard not once in any of these deliberations the town complain about the sound of a two-stroke airplane. Now, a train, very heavy, creates a lot of vibration. There's train tracks right behind all of these houses. A truck, all right? Legal limit without permit is 80,000 pounds. That's 40 tons. Legal limit with a permit, with the percentage over is 104,000 pounds. Do the math on how many tons that is. And I'm not even talking about just the scrap trucks. I'm also talking about trash trucks. I'm also talking about your compactor trucks, the ones that pick up your daily trash. Those get up in excess of 90,000 pounds. All right? Now, I want you to do the math on the tonnage with that. I know it's a lot, but it's a lot of tons. That vibration is more than what the shredder actually produces. Please. You have the right to speak just like everybody else has. Please. So I also want you to take into consideration the trash that these people are collecting in their yards. I don't know if you've ever been on the highway behind a trash truck. It's light trash. It comes out all the time. The shred and everything that comes into these trucks, our trucks are covered. We spend the hundreds of thousands of dollars between all the trucking companies to make sure that our loads are covered. And we have to replace these covers sometimes 4 times a year at about $400 a piece between all the trucks. Just to make sure that we don't leave anything on the road for the citizens of Freetown, okay? So that way we can stay in business, so we can feed our families, so that way I can take care of the families that I employ, all right? Everything that I've heard is contradictory. They want to complain about one noise, but they don't want to accept the other one. They want to complain about some trash, but they don't want to accept the other one. But they'll accept the other one. The stuff that comes out of the shredder, the grime, breaks down faster than your household trash. Your household trash is worse for the landfills than the grime that comes out of the shredder.
That's how nature it is.
It breaks down faster. That's the whole point of trash. Trash is supposed to break down. You put it into the landfill, it's got everything that we buy, everything that we use, everything that we consume has a rate of degradation, or else they can't put it on the market. So the stuff that comes out of that shredder actually breaks down faster than your household trash. There's a lot of things that everyone needs to take into consideration. There's a lot of lives and a lot of families depending on it. I understand that they've got their investments as well. Honestly, you buy property next to an industrial park, industry's going to come. And when industry comes, you can't cry poor me for making a poor decision.
The house is there. The house is there with it before.
It doesn't matter if the houses were there before or not, it's an industrial park. It's in the title of the property, industry, okay? So no matter what industrial park you put your houses in, it's going to be an industrial
You're
park.
being on the record right now. I can't, you're gonna have to wait.
Are you a resident of the town, sir?
I'm sorry?
Are you a resident of the town?
I'm one of the trucking companies. I lease property in the town. I do not live here, but I do lease property in the town.
Question was for residents.
That's fine, I've said my piece, I appreciate it.
On both sides, please, because otherwise we can't
My name is Jose Branco. I live at 7 Alexander Drive for 15 years. First of all, I would like to say, if you live in Alexander Drive and you live on High Street, if you don't hear any noise, there's something wrong with you. Yeah. And this is, for the last 2 or 3 weeks, I collected this debris in my yard, in my pool, you name it. And I've been living at 7 Alexander Drive for 15 years. There's plenty of trucks that go by. My house never vibrated. So I have no idea what he's talking about.
He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Okay, he's got no idea what he's talking about, number one. Again, I've been living in that 15 years. I have cracks on the walls. My house vibrates. There's debris on my pool. I've taxed John. There's debris in my pool. My pool is 3 years old. My pump 23 years old. John says there's no debris flying from Excel. John, this is for you. And I told John, if you don't believe me, why don't you look at the police log? They took pictures of it. John Costin never replied. There was no reason to. I don't know. This morning, as far as normally vibration explosions, it's out of control. Honestly, it's not all day, but it's every day. There's between my house and Pedro Nevo's house, there's like a canal through there. Okay, there's odor and oil in the air on a daily basis. You can't. Well, we all witness it. The police has witnessed it. The Board of Health has witnessed it. The only one doesn't exist is Excel. You know? And you know what he said earlier about suing the town? It's not only about suing the town. It's about doing the right thing for the residents. I've been a resident for 15 years. Okay? We got to do the right thing. We got to protect the citizens. It's the Board of Health guy's job and your guy's job to protect the citizens. You know, I'm sick and tired, honestly, to call the police, call the fire department all the time, and sometimes the police gets there. You know, if I call because there's smoke, 2 minutes later there's no smoke. Of course, the police is not going to see it. It's not like a picture you can take it and you can show it to someone. Okay, but we all have the same problem. The smoke, the vibration, the explosions, the debris. I am sick and tired of calling the police department. Some of them, you know, they're good guys. Most of them are good guys and they understand. They're sympathetic. I had one of my kids' bedroom, one of the pictures fell off the wall. I have a picture on my phone if you like to see it. The picture fell down and broke. I called the police department. They took pictures of it. And I mean, it is what it is. As a resident, I don't feel I need to come home and put up with this. I am sick of it. I am sick of it calling the police department, calling the fire department, calling the town. And how long has this been going on? A year and a half. And you know what? I look at John over there, and when someone is talking, and he's got a smirk on his face, like it's funny. Is this funny? Are you kidding me? I will.
Nothing personal here.
No, there's nothing personal here. It's my life and my kid's life and the residents of Freetown, of Alexander Drive and the Sonnet that we're talking about. But I look at him, I see this smirk in his face like we're making this stuff up. Enough is enough. We had enough of this. They've had 2 years to fix this problem. They can't fix the problem. Excel is too close to the residents. They're too close to the neighborhood. I don't feel I need to come home and relax and enjoy my pool and enjoy my family, and I can't be outside because Excel is too loud. There's, again, everything. So I feel bad for these guys. I know they need a job. I need to feed my family. I really do. I feel for them. I understand. But you know what? It's doing the right thing. They're not in compliance. My windows vibrate. My house shakes on a daily basis. My kids get up in the morning and say, Daddy, I say, why you up so early? My bag was vibrating. Okay? So, if you live in Alexander Drive again, Butch, if you can't hear the noise and the vibration, there's something wrong with you. Thank you. I thank you for your time.
Janine Ludovic, 106 High Street. Ludovic, Ludovicc. I do what you do for a living, so I know. 106 High Street. I can't speak to trash in the yard. Haven't had that. Do get the smell. Do get the smoke. Do get the vibration. Up our end of High Street along the old quarry, it's all bedrock. And vibration travels. Since January of 2016, the explosions and vibrations, we've now got 3 cracks in our foundation that we have to have fixed. But more to the point is the health risks. I personally can speak to the fact that last fall and twice last summer, I had asthma attacks. I haven't had asthma attacks in years. I had 3 attacks over a period of 5 weeks that sent me to the emergency room. And now, after 30 years, I'm back to carrying a rescue inhaler. And it really annoys me. It really does. I shouldn't have to deal with this. The smell, it smells like burning tires, burning rubber. I don't know what's going on out there, but you can smell it, and it is noxious. And you call and somebody comes, and then it dissipates. But on those heavy, hot August days, those are the days I had my asthma attack. Got all dressed for work, got out on the front lawn, went to get into the car, and suddenly could not breathe at 8:30 in the morning. I don't know what else to say to that, except for the fact that, you know, we do have statutes, I believe it's 8 to 4 town bylaws, but they're added nights, weekends, it doesn't matter. You know, I don't know if they're trying to make quota or what, but they are not adhering to what our town bylaws are for noise and smoke. But the smoke is blue-gray, it comes up out of the quarry, it drifts across right into the backyard and into mine, and you can't spend any time on it. Thank you for your time.
Erica Ferrera, 33B High Street, Minnesota. I'm disgusted with what I have to listen to. This is ridiculous. All of these residents being put through this again and again and again and again. I'm one of those people who has emailed half a dozen times trying to get the right moment to the right person with the right description to get some attention. I've asked for 2 meetings in person, slightly reassuring that my voice is heard, but now I'm in a t-shirt. I'm in a t-shirt in a room full of people wearing t-shirts trying to get your attention. This is crazy. It is true. The foundations in our homes are cracking. It's unbelievable the effect it has had on our home and property. The gates on my property are moving. We can no longer close the gate that surrounds our backyard. The posts are off, the latches are off. It's all these weird, bizarre things. I haven't seen any birds dance in our yard with the debris, but I've picked it out of the piles of leaves. The dust is unreal. I have a baggie full of dust that I scraped off the table before my son's birthday party. After doing that, my nose was burning for about 15 minutes. I don't know why. What else am I supposed to do but assume it's from the particulates in the air? And you haven't even gone there yet. You haven't even started testing the water yet. This is beyond sound. This is not a nuisance. A nuisance is a dog barking, or a neighbor burning brush in the middle of the night, or a loud party. That's a nuisance. These are our lives. This is these are our homes. This is where we come home to, and our kids can't go outside. People are suffering. They can't breathe.
They're afraid to leave their homes. You should have seen everyone. I'm shaking, standing here at the microphone. This is crazy to imagine this could go on for one more day. And thank you, Derek, for acknowledging what we've been saying. It's the first time I've heard anybody acknowledge what we are saying and respond to our comments, our phone calls, our emails. Me personally, the DEP, health agent, town administrator, I went to one Board of Selectmen meeting. I tried to go to several, but they seem to be canceled frequently or moved and making childcare arrangements. I can't go. This is crazy. The article in the paper yesterday showed an aerial photo of what that area looks like. That's what it looked like before Excel moved in. It would have been really nice to show people what it looks like now. This is beyond sound. This is our future. This is the future of Freetown. How many more t-shirts are we going to have to make? How many more meetings will we have to attend? Emails to be sent? I cannot imagine the toll this is taking on the fire and police departments. Cannot imagine. And I'm sure there are other things you need to attend to. You've heard from us. You've been hearing from us. We're speaking again and again and again. I don't know what else we need to say. It's a supremely negative impact on this town. If the push to move forward is dollars, bottom line, taxes, balancing, budgeting, whatever, what about the cost to the residents? You know, we're paying taxes for this, and for what? Is it worth it? Is it worth it? People are having trouble breathing. I don't let my kids go outside when the shredder is running. My stepson now wears a face mask when he mows the lawn. 90 minutes of raking on Monday or Tuesday. I was nauseous, had a headache, and had to go inside. I just want to rake leaves. I want to let my kids play. No, guys, just wait 10 more minutes. It's 10:04. You can go outside after that. My 10-year-old wanted to read a book in the afternoon. A couple weeks ago, the sun actually came out, and he came inside, Mommy, it's too loud. Really? This is what we're dealing with. What else will it take for you to hear us, act on it? This isn't us complaining, this is asking for help. We're asking for help. Thank you.
Unfortunately, I sent everybody else in the line at 7:30, so unfortunately, we didn't have time to hear you again, okay? We started the meeting 10 minutes late, so I know. Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21(3), to discuss strategy with respect to litigation. If an open meeting may have detrimental effects to litigation position of the public body, and this chair so declares. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion. We have a motion made and seconded to enter into executive session. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Pacheco?
Yes.
Mr. Joes, yes. We will not be returning into open session.